My name is Jeff Morgan. I'm from Dallas, Texas. I'd like to speak a little bit further about a matter that I witnessed in court on Thursday, August the 15th, 2019. It was in Tarrant County in the 96th District Court. And this was under Judge R.H. Wallace, Jr. My friend Brandon Johnson had appeared before him. He was seeking to have a judge recused from a hearing, and he appeared before Judge R.H. Wallace. Prior to this hearing, I wrote to the court coordinator, the 96th District Court coordinator. Her name is Jennifer Ramos, and I asked for the protocol so that I could videotape this recording. So, and 5 times during my letter, I actually mentioned the word videotape, something like along those lines. So everybody knew that I was seeking to videotape the recording. Now, the judge did actually issue an order. He issued an order that to advise the parties that the court received an ex parte communication relating to this proceeding from Mr. Jeffrey S. Morgan, and he actually attached the communication to this order, and he said that the court would consider this as a request to record or photograph the hearing on the petitioner's motion for recusal set for hearing at 1:30 p.m. Thursday, August 15th, 2019, and will rule upon the request at that time. Well, the rule that was given to this request was that it was denied because the attorney representing the opposing party, the party against whom the motion was filed, did not consent to allow for the videotaping. Now, that attorney said nothing as far as testimony was concerned, and I already figured that that attorney would do just that because the attorney does not want certain things to come out to the public's notice. They would rather have certain things done in secret where nobody can see this, and basically where it becomes one person's word against another person's word. So I was expecting that to be the case, so we were not allowed to videotape the hearing. Even though, once again, the only testimony, to the best of my knowledge, of the test that the attorney gave was to say she did not consent to the video recording. There was no other testimony given. Now, Mr. Johnson, who had filed for the motion, he actually did consent and wanted the hearing videotaped so that he could have an accurate record of what took place. Because it is not unknown for these judges to sometimes order a court reporter to strike something from the record. I have heard many people that have said court transcripts have been changed, altered, certain key facts have been deleted or eliminated. And Mr. Johnson wanted to ensure that he had an accurate recording of what took place. But this was denied. So everybody that has watched this video that I've spoken to about it all agree, without exception, that Judge R.H. Wallace threatened my friend Brandon Johnson, threatened him with jail. And I think it's very clear, if you listen to the recording, it appears to me to be very clear that that's exactly what R.H. Wallace, Jr., the presiding judge, was doing.
Well, sir, Mr. Johnson, listen, where do you live? Sir, I live in Mineral Wells. You want to go home tonight? You want to go home tonight?
However, in talking with some people, I've also found that there have been a few other alternate explanations of what may have taken place. So, for example, one lady that watched the video, she said, yes, very definitely the judge was threatening him, either threatening him with jail or threatening possibly to eliminate him, to off him, to possibly have something happen to Mr. Johnson that he would not make it home. Now, as a witness there, I did not get that impression. I mean, I was there watching the entire thing. I was shocked that the judge would threaten my friend Brandon, which what I thought was sending him to jail for the evening if he did not shut up and obey the judge. But we have to consider that possibly the judge actually was doing that. How do we know that maybe the judge didn't have that in mind? There is no video recording to capture the facial expression of the judge as he was saying that. So I think that her explanation, her interpretation ought to be as plausible as anyone else's. Perhaps the judge really was not threatening Mr. Johnson with jail. Perhaps the judge was threatening the demise of Mr. Johnson. Perhaps the judge was going to say, if you don't shut up and let me out of the courtroom, you will never be home again. I don't know. That is something that the judge, of course, will have to answer. But we have no video recording of the proceeding so that we can make a claim one way or another. As an eyewitness, it's my word and my friend Brandon Johnson's word against a judge's word, but it very much appeared to be that the judge was threatening him with jail time, but we cannot discount the possibility that the judge was actually threatening him with something far worse than jail time. And this should be something that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct would look into. Because if indeed the judge was threatening my friend Brandon Johnson with jail time, or even worse, this should be a matter of concern to this august body that we call the Texas State Commission on Judicial Conduct. And I wonder if they indeed will look into this and even watch the videos and listen to the recording that we have of Judge R.H. Wallace Jr. making what appears to be a threat. But there was also a third interpretation that could be given. Maybe it wasn't a threat at all. Maybe it was some type of an invitation to Mr. Johnson. Maybe what the judge was saying is, Mr. Johnson, do you want to go home tonight? In other words, instead of going home, would you like to come to my place? Would you like to go out to dinner with me? Would you like to maybe meet at a private place where we could get to know each other better, and we'll see what happens from there. I did not get that impression from the hearing. My impression was that Judge R.H. Wallace Jr. was threatening Brandon Johnson with jail time if he didn't just shut up and be quiet and keep his mouth shut. But we have to consider that perhaps maybe this other person is correct. Maybe indeed the judge was extending some type of an improper offer to Mr. Johnson. Maybe the judge was looking for something a little bit other than the way I interpreted it. We don't know this, but we do know that some judges have done such things. And in which case, this would be considered a very almost propositioning Mr. Johnson. And it would be something that I would be sure that the State Commission on Judicial Conduct would want to investigate, because if a judge is actually propositioning people, this is a matter of very serious concern. And Mr. Johnson could even join the Me Too movement about this horrendous event that he suffered when a white man propositioned him in court. Again, I don't think that's what took place, but apart from any type of video evidence, this is something that we really don't know for sure. But there's even a fourth explanation to what happened. Perhaps the judge, R.H. Wallace Jr., was even somehow bribing Mr. Johnson. Maybe what he was saying is, Mr. Johnson, would you like to go home tonight? Because if you don't, I have a daughter or a granddaughter or maybe a neighbor's friend that I think I would like you to meet. She's lonely, and maybe if you go out with her, maybe we can come to a better arrangement with this. So that would, in a sense, almost be a judge offering Mr. Mr. Johnson, some type of a bribe. Again, I do not get that impression. The way that I, as a witness, took the whole thing was that the judge was threatening Brandon Johnson with jail time. But these other options have to be considered. And once again, if we had videotaping in the courtrooms, we could see not just everything that took place there, but we could see the facial expressions that took place as well. We could see whether the judge intended to actually throw Mr. Johnson into jail, whether that was a threat, whether he was thinking about something worse, like perhaps causing his ultimate demise. Maybe he was propositioning Mr. Johnson, or maybe he was bribing Mr. Johnson in a way to say, hey, if you go out with this, my daughter or my granddaughter or a neighbor's friend or something like that, maybe we can come to a better conclusion on this. Again, I don't know. Nobody knows. But this is why we need videotaping in the courtroom. One of the things that the judge mentioned was that videotaping should not impair the proceedings of the court. The court proceedings should not be impaired. And I would once again assert that videotaping of these hearings would have enhanced the court proceedings. Not only will litigants feel more protected knowing that everything that is being said and done to them or that they are saying and doing will be preserved in a video record, but I think it would also help to protect the judges, because in this case we have a judge, R.H. Wallace Jr., who either threatened Brandon Johnson with jail, threatened with Brandon Johnson with something worse, was somehow propositioning Brandon Johnson, as disgusting as that sounds, or maybe was even saying, Brandon, we can cut a deal if instead of you going home tonight, maybe there's a daughter or a granddaughter or a neighbor's friend that you could spend the night with or go out with. And maybe we can come to a better deal that way. Again, nobody knows. And at this point, it's just one person's word against another. Videotaping these proceedings would enhance the court's proceedings rather than impair the court's proceedings, because first off, Judge R.H. Wallace Jr. likely would not have made such a statement had he known his words and his facial expression were being videotaped and captured in such a way that others could review it. it would also protect the judge, because right now we don't know what the judge's motivation really was. Maybe it was something very innocent. Maybe it was an innocent question. Now, the judge, of course, would say that, and of course, if you file something with the State Commission for Judicial Conduct, they will believe that, because they will almost always believe a judge versus the people who are filing with them. So in this regard, once again, I do press forward, stating that I think we need to have video cameras in our courts, not just to preserve the litigants' rights, but also to enhance the court proceedings, and in cases in which a judge may have said something that he didn't really mean, that we could also protect his reputation as well. It's very important that the judges we have be people of integrity, that they are people that we trust. Because if we can't trust our judges, we cannot trust our judicial system. And judges that we can't trust undermine and impair our confidence in the proceedings of the court. Thank you.